Hey there, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Jason Boyer here, and I want to get you updated on the tropics. There are a lot of scenarios that are out there floating around the World Wide Web, right? And I'm sure many of you have seen some what we call the doomsday scenarios that we're going to get pummeled by all kinds of rain and wind, and this is going to be a repeat of last year. That is just not something we are seeing right now, folks, in terms of scenarios, at least more likely scenarios. So let's talk about what we know, what we do not know, because there are a lot of uncertainties and there is nothing concrete at this moment in terms of exactly where this is going to go, exactly how strong it's going to be, and the exact impacts for the Carolinas. But we do know we're likely going to have a tropical system coming toward the coast of the Carolinas early next week. This is Monday into Tuesday. We don't know the strength of that. We don't know the track exactly just yet. And the impacts here, obviously in the Western Carolinas, highly variable. And I'll explain what that means in just a second. First, let's take a look at the system itself. It has not moved much in the last 24 to 36 hours. This thing has been struggling. It's sitting just off the coast of Cuba right now, the center of circulation. And what is happening is it's been interacting with land and not a lot of water. So it's a weak system, right? These systems want to be over water and they want to draw that water vapor from the Gulf or the Atlantic, whatever body of water they're over, and use that to strengthen themselves and get better organized. Now, the thinking is that is going to happen in the next 24 hours. As this drifts a little more to the north, it is going to move away from land, and some of the thunderstorms, those bright orange colors you see around the low, these thunderstorms may start to get organized closer to the center and begin to turn and create that cyclonic spin that we see in a typical tropical depression or tropical storm. But that has not happened yet. And this is key to how the computer models are handling their solutions or projected paths of this storm. There is a lot of data yet to be collected, let's say. We haven't had a lot of recon flights into the system yet. That is likely to happen in the next 24 hours. We're going to get more data. We're going to get better data. We're going to get a better idea of how this is going to evolve. So saying one scenario is going to play out at this point is just not prudent, okay? But we want you to know what types of scenarios are possible at this point, and that's what we're going to get into. There's the drier air that we were fearing would erode away to the north of the system. That's starting to happen in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So we're seeing a lot of that green shaded, humid or more moist air. That's also impactful for the system. If the system has more of that moisture again, it is likely to strengthen. We look at wind shear. What is this? This is basically change in speed or direction of winds away from the surface. Storms, tropical ones, or just general thunderstorms in any kind of given scenario, they don't like a lot of wind shear, okay? Because what that does is it takes the tops of the thunderstorms and blows them and kind of shears them apart, and the thunderstorms cannot mature, if you will, to their possibilities or capabilities. So at this point, the reds and oranges indicate there is some shear that this system's dealing with. Now, where the greens and the yellows are, that indicates where there's less of that. So if the system can move north and slightly west and get out of some of that higher shear, then it is more likely to strengthen. Okay, so you see there's a lot of questions. This is just strictly the Global Forecast Systems model, the GFS. These are called spaghetti plots because they look like spaghetti noodles. But this is every run of the ensemble model. So the model will run one time with a certain scenario, then there's a tweak in the parameters that are inputted into the model, they run it again, then they do it again, they change something, they run it again. So this is essentially trying to get every possible scenario at one time in this system. And there you go. This is exactly what we're looking at, the possibilities of this system. Some of these lines are way over here, some of these lines are way out here. Many of them do stay down the middle here, okay? And what that's telling us is this system is likely to pull north-northwest, close in on the coast, And certainly after that, a big question. So let's zoom in a little bit on this. You see a lot of those spaghetti lines kind of come across Georgia and South Carolina. Less of them are coming up to North Carolina. Most of these are between Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and Savannah. So that's a good indication that this system, if it is going to make a landfall, would be somewhere between Savannah and Myrtle Beach, okay? Possibly as far north as Wilmington, but again, these are other models that are involved in forecasting these tropical systems, and again, they do have a pretty good consensus going on here. There are some that turn it, though. You see that change where I'll draw on here to show you what I'm talking about. All of these out here, these are all hard turns to the right, taking the storm away from the coast suddenly, okay? These are the ones that look very similar to what I just showed you out here, bringing it on shore. So this one's kind of split 50-50, okay, in terms of these spaghetti models. So that's a little more uncertainty. We're like, okay, is it going to make that turn or not? Is a big question, and that is a huge question. This is going to update in just a second. This is the potential rainfall through the next 7 days, and I want to note the ranges here, if you will. So out here along the coast, obviously big numbers could be realized. We're talking upwards of 5 to 7 inches of rain along the coast. There's that color shaded for the legend. When you get back into the mountains, yes, this is a lot of rain. These oranges indicate 3 to 4 to high end 5 inches of rain. Now keep in mind, that's over the course of the next 7 days, not just a day, but 7 days total. Most of this, however, would fall early in the week, next week, like a Monday through Wednesday time frame. If we zoom in on our mountains, and of course mountains, we know from Helene and past tropical storms, they enhance rain. There are some indications that along the Blue Ridge Escarpment, the Continental Divide, right in here, you can see the numbers, or the colors I should say, are a little more vibrant, and that indicates 5 inches or more of rain falling in these areas. There's also a little bullseye down here over the Pisgah Ridge, southern Haywood County. These are the typical areas that would be favored for heavier rain if we get a tropical system to come west from the coast, okay? Because those winds would tend to be upsloping like this a little more if that system comes from the east, moves west, and we get the wind profiled like that. There is no guarantee that that's going to happen, folks, okay? But that is the possibility that we want you to be aware of. There is the possibility of a significant amount of rain early next week. Let's talk about those possibilities. Where would we get most of our impacts statewide, not only North Carolina but South Carolina, if the system, which likely becomes Imelda, moves to the coast and moves inland, somewhere around, say, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, or Hilton Head? That would bring a lot of water, rain. We would have some storm surge along the coast. We'd have rain and wind along the coast. We'd have rain mostly inland as well. That would be the most impactful scenario for statewide Carolinas, okay? Mostly coastal impacts if the storm stays off the coast, right? And doesn't come west and stays closer to Wilmington or Charleston, but just offshore. Okay, that's mostly coastal impacts. We would have less impacts here in the Western Carolinas, pretty low end. Minimal impacts for the entire region if it goes farther east. That makes sense. The storm goes farther away from the Carolinas, and we have very little impacts at all. That is not likely to happen, but there's no 0% probability that that's going to happen. So there is still that low end chance the storm does make that turn. So big questions. The unknowns are, how far west will the storm get once it comes up? Does it stall? That's huge. If the system gets inland and stalls, obviously worst case scenario, right? How strong does it get? We don't have the answers to those questions. We hope to get them, obviously, with better data that is expected in the next 24 hours. This is just a model. I want to show you the scenario this is painting. The I stands for Imelda. Hurricane Umberto is going to become a major hurricane. That's not our concern. But what might come into play is this kind of tug of war between Umberto and Imelda. There might be some of that tug of war involved. If there's more of that, then Imelda might stay out over the water and not get the momentum it needed to come on shore and become a landfalling system. That's the hope, that Umberto kind of pulls a little bit on it and we get the whatever becomes Imelda, it doesn't come on shore. If it speeds up and passes Umberto enough that Umberto can't catch up and do the tug of war thing, then Imelda is likely going to come straight up and come to the coast and possibly move inland. That's what we are watching, okay? And those are still big unknowns at this point. So we just want you to know there are no active watches, warnings, or anything like that at this point for our region, for anybody in the Carolinas. But if you live along the coast or you live farther inland, yes, this is something you should monitor, obviously. We want you to continually monitor with those updates that we will provide here on YouTube, on our social media, on the webpage at WLOS.com, and of course, on air later on today. That's all I have for now. It isn't time to panic by any means, but it is time to be watchful, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we'll keep you updated as best we can, and we appreciate it, and we'll certainly have more updates later today. We're going to be live in Swannanoa for the evening shows, so please join us as we wrap up our week of Helene and talk more about that. Thanks for listening. Stay safe.